The city lay in silence, broken houses leaning against one another like old men too tired to stand. Dust moved with the cold wind, whispering through empty streets. Far at the edge of this ruined city lived a boy no one cared about. He had no parents, no family, no warm bed to sleep in. People called him only the Orphan. He wore torn clothes and walked with bare feet that had grown used to stones and dirt. His home was not a home at all, just a broken shed with holes in the roof where rain slipped through at night. Every day was the same for him. He woke up hungry. He searched for scraps of bread or leftover food near the market, careful not to be caught by guards who chased beggars away. He worked for coins when someone needed a hand to carry water or fix broken crates. Yet no matter how much he worked, it was never enough. The city was full of poor people, and he was just one more face no one noticed. But even though his life was hard, his heart was not hard. He still shared food with other street children when he found some. He still helped old people carry heavy bags. Inside, he wished only for a friend and a family. One night, as the sky filled with dark clouds, the Orphan sat outside his shed, hugging his knees. The wind grew stronger, bringing the smell of rain. Lightning flashed far away, showing the broken walls of the city in a white glow. He thought it would be another long, lonely night. But then the ground shook. It was not like thunder, it was different. A loud, deep sound came from beyond the city walls. The boy lifted his head. His eyes widened. The sound was like metal breaking, followed by fire cutting through the sky. He stood up and saw a streak of light falling fast, burning bright against the clouds. It looked like a star crashing to the earth. The boy's mouth opened in awe. The streak ended with a huge crash beyond the old gate where no one lived anymore. The earth trembled once more, and then silence returned. Most people would run away from such a thing. But the Orphan felt something pull at his heart. Curiosity burned in him. What if it was a treasure? What if it was danger? He could not stop his legs. Without thinking, he wrapped his thin coat around him and began to walk quickly toward the sound. His heart beat fast. The path was dark and empty. The houses near the wall were broken long ago, left to rot. No one dared to stay there because of thieves and wild dogs. The boy stepped carefully, but he did not stop. The smell of smoke grew stronger as he went further. His small chest rose and fell quickly. Every sound made him flinch, but he pushed forward. When he reached the edge of the wall, he saw it, burning metal, glowing red, half buried in the ground. The crash had torn the earth open. Flames flickered around the wreck, sparks flying into the night. The boy's eyes widened with wonder. He had never seen anything like it. It was no cart, no machine of the city. It was something from the stars. He stepped closer, heart racing. The metal shell hissed with heat, making the air shimmer. Then he saw movement. His breath caught. From the broken opening, a figure crawled out slowly, tall, with strange skin that glowed faintly under the moonlight. The figure fell to the ground, weak and trembling. The boy gasped. It was not human. The Orphan stood frozen, fear and shock mixing inside him. He had heard stories about aliens, creatures from far worlds. People in the city spoke of them with fear and hate. They said aliens were dangerous, liars, even monsters. But this one was hurt. The stranger's body shook as he tried to rise, but he collapsed again. A faint sound left his lips, words in a language the boy had never heard. His voice was weak, almost broken. The boy's mind screamed at him to run. If anyone found out he was near this thing, he could be punished or worse. Yet his heart told him something different. This alien was in pain and he was alone, just like the boy himself. Slowly, carefully, the Orphan stepped closer. His small hands shook, but his eyes were steady. He bent down beside the alien. The stranger's skin felt cold and strange when the boy touched his arm. The alien's eyes opened weakly, glowing faintly, and for a moment the boy felt as if the universe itself was staring at him. The alien whispered again, voice trembling, in words the boy did not know. Then in broken human speech he said one word clearly, "Help." The Orphan's heart pounded. He was only a poor boy with nothing, but at that moment he was the only one who could decide what would happen. Leave the alien to die, or save him. The boy looked around at the empty night, the burning wreck, the shadows moving with the wind. Then he took a deep breath and whispered back, almost to himself, "I will help you." And so began a story that would change not only the Orphan's life, but the fate of worlds. The Orphan's hands trembled as he helped the alien lean against the broken wall near the crash. The stranger's breathing was slow, uneven, like someone holding on to life with the last of his strength. The boy did not know what to do. He had never cared for anyone sick or wounded before. He was just a poor child, barely able to care for himself. And yet, when he looked at the alien's weak eyes, he felt a strange weight pressing on his heart. The city was not far. If the guards discovered this alien, they would not think twice before dragging him away, maybe even killing him on the spot. People feared outsiders, especially beings from other worlds. They believed aliens brought war and curses. If the boy was caught hiding one, he too would be punished, maybe even executed. He knew all of this. And still, he could not walk away. The boy pulled the alien's arm over his thin shoulder. The stranger was tall and heavy compared to the boy's small body, but the orphan gritted his teeth and forced himself to stand. Step by step, he dragged the alien away from the burning wreck, his feet sinking into the dirt, his breath shaking. Behind him, smoke rose high into the night sky. Anyone could see it, and soon they would come looking. The orphan's secret shelter was not far. He lived in an old storage shed that once belonged to traders before the market died. It was broken, but it was hidden in the shadow of the city wall. Few people bothered to check that place. If he could get the alien there, maybe he could buy some time. Every step was painful. The alien groaned in a language the boy did not understand, sometimes speaking words that sounded like broken glass, sometimes in weak human speech. Run, leave, me, but the boy shook his head. He whispered back, no, I won't. Finally, after what felt like forever, the boy reached the shed. He pushed the door open with his foot and pulled the alien inside. The roof leaked and the floor was hard, but at least it was shelter. He lowered the alien gently, his arms shaking from exhaustion. The stranger's skin glowed faintly like a dying light inside him. His breathing slowed, but his eyes remained open, watching the boy with something that looked like surprise, as if he did not expect anyone to risk so much for him. The boy quickly searched for water. He had only a small clay cup, half filled from earlier in the day. He brought it to the alien's lips. The stranger drank weakly, then coughed, then drank again. His voice, still rough, whispered, safe. The boy hesitated, then nodded. Safe for now. But even as he said it, his ears caught a sound outside. Heavy footsteps. Voices. He froze. Through the cracks in the broken wood, he saw shadows moving across the street, dark figures taller than any guards he had seen before. They wore armor that gleamed faintly in the moonlight, and strange weapons hung at their sides. They were not city men. They were something worse. Hunters. The boy's heart slammed against his chest. They were searching, and it was clear what they were looking for. He crouched low, barely breathing, hoping the shadows would pass. But then one of the armored men spoke, his voice sharp and cold. The crash was here, spread out. He cannot have gone far. The orphan's stomach twisted with fear. If they searched carefully, they would find the shed. He looked at the alien lying weakly on the floor. What could he do? He was only a child. He could not fight these men. He had no weapon, no strength. The alien whispered something faintly, his glowing eyes half closed. The boy bent close to hear. In broken words, the alien said, if they find me, they kill you. Leave. The orphan bit his lip until it hurt. His heart screamed at him to run, but something stronger inside him refused. For the first time in his life, someone needed him. Not for money, not for work, but for survival. If he abandoned this stranger, what would that make him? He stood slowly, his small fists clenched. He had no plan, but he had courage. He whispered back to the alien, I won't let them take you. He slipped outside silently, hugging the shadows of the wall. The hunters were spreading through the street, their eyes glowing faintly behind their masks. One of them bent down to study the dirt. Another scanned the walls with a device that beeped softly. They were skilled trackers. It would only be moments before they found the shed. The boy thought quickly. He could not fight them, but maybe he could distract them. He picked up a stone and threw it hard toward the far corner of the street. The clatter echoed in the silence. Instantly, two hunters turned their heads and rushed toward the sound. The boy's heart pounded. He ran the other way, his bare feet making no sound. He darted through broken alleys, his small body faster than the heavy armored hunters. He turned corner after corner, leading them away from the shed. For a moment, he thought he had escaped. But then he heard it, the sharp beep of a device, then voices shouting. They had seen his trail. The boy pushed himself harder, lungs burning, vision blurring. He could not stop. He had to protect the alien. If they caught him, they would torture him for answers, and then they would search the shed. Behind him, the hunter's footsteps thundered closer. One shouted, "The boy, catch him!" The orphan's heart nearly stopped. They knew. They knew he was hiding something. He darted into the dark ruins, chest heaving, every step echoing with fear. But in his mind, one thought repeated again and again. I must protect him, no matter what. And in the shadows, unseen, another pair of glowing eyes watched the boy's desperate courage with silent wonder. The night was no longer silent. The sound of heavy boots echoed through the ruined streets. The hunters moved, like shadows, their armor shining faintly under the pale moonlight. Their glowing visors scanned the ground, searching for any sign of movement. Each step was slow, steady, like predators circling their prey. The orphan crouched in the dark corner of a broken house, his chest rising and falling as he tried to catch his breath. He had led them away from the shed, but not far enough. These hunters were skilled. They did not give up easily. His small body trembled with fear, but inside him, a fire burned stronger than his fear. He thought of the alien lying weak in his shed, unable to move, depending on him. If he failed, the stranger would be captured, or worse. One of the hunters stopped suddenly, holding a glowing device in his hand. The machine gave a sharp, steady beep. The man turned his head, his mask scanning the area. He went this way. The hunter's deep voice growled. The boy's stomach tightened. He had left tracks. His bare feet had left marks in the dirt. Panic rose inside him, but he forced it down. He could not afford to be weak now. He had to think. He picked up a broken piece of wood lying near him. Carefully, he dragged it across the dirt, sweeping his tracks, then slipped into a narrow passage between two collapsed walls. His body barely fit, but that was his advantage. The hunters were tall, their armor heavy. They could not follow him through such small spaces. The boy crawled through the rubble, his skin scratching against sharp stones, his breath held tight in his chest. Behind him, the hunters' voices grew louder. Find the boy. He is protecting him. Those words made the orphan freeze for a moment. Protecting him? They knew. Somehow they already knew the boy had the alien. His heart pounded harder. That meant they would not stop until they had both of them. At the shed, the alien stirred weakly. His glowing eyes opened as faint sounds carried through the night air, the stomp of boots, the crackle of weapons charging. He knew the hunters were close. His body ached, too weak to move, but his mind was sharp. He whispered into the dark, his voice rough. Child, why? As if in answer, the boy slipped back through the shadows, returning to the shed with desperate speed. His chest heaved, his face pale with exhaustion, but his eyes held a strange light of courage. He shut the door behind him and dropped to his knees beside the alien. They're close, he whispered, but I won't let them take you. The alien studied him, confusion mixing with respect. In all his life, he had seen many people, rich, powerful, greedy, cruel. But never had he seen a poor human child risk so much for someone he barely knew. Outside, the sound of boots grew nearer. The hunters spread out, their weapons glowing faintly, ready to fire. One of them raised a hand and the other stopped. He studied the shed carefully. The glowing device in his hand beeped louder. He is inside, the hunter said coldly. The orphan's blood turned cold. They had found them. His eyes darted around the small shed. There was nowhere to hide, nowhere to run. The alien was too weak to move and the boy was too small to fight. The alien's hand trembled as he reached for the strange device near his chest, but the boy quickly placed his hand on his arm. No, he whispered. If you use that, they'll know for sure. Let me try first. The alien's glowing eyes narrowed. His voice was weak but firm. You cannot fight them. The boy swallowed hard. He knew that was true. He could not fight. But maybe he could trick them. He took a deep breath, his mind racing with a desperate idea. The shed door creaked suddenly. A heavy boot kicked it open. The hunters entered, their glowing eyes sweeping the room. The boy stood in front of the alien, his small body trembling but unmoving. One hunter stepped forward, raising his weapon. "Move, child," he ordered, his voice cold. The orphan shook his head, his voice breaking but strong. "He's not here. There's no one. Only me." The hunters looked at one another. One of them scanned the room with his device. It beeped loudly when it pointed toward the alien lying in the shadows. The hunter raised his weapon higher. "You lie." Fear stabbed through the boy's heart, but he did not step aside. He spread his arms wide, blocking the alien with his own body. "You'll have to go through me," he whispered, his voice shaking. For a moment, silence filled the shed. The hunters, tall and armed, stared down at the thin, poor orphan who dared to stand against them. Then the leader laughed coldly. "So be it. Take the boy. He will lead us to the truth." Two hunters stepped forward, reaching for the orphan. He struggled, kicking and biting, but their armored hands grabbed him like a bird caught in iron claws. The alien tried to rise, anger flashing in his glowing eyes, but his weak body fell back. His voice rose, sharp and broken. "No, let him go!" But the hunters ignored him. They dragged the boy outside, their boots echoing in the night. The orphan fought with every ounce of his small strength, shouting, "Run! Don't let them take you." The alien's chest heaved, his hand tightening on the strange device. He had wanted to stay hidden, but now, seeing the boy risk everything, something inside him burned awake. The hunters thought they had won. They thought the orphan was weak, but they did not know who they were truly dealing with. And as the alien's trembling hand pressed the glowing device, a faint light began to spread across the night. The night sky glowed faintly as the alien's device pulsed with strange light. The hunters froze for a moment, their visors flickering as if the signal had disturbed their systems. The orphan, still trapped in the armored hands of the hunters, felt the vibration run through the air like a heartbeat. His eyes widened. He had no idea what the alien had just done, but it was not something ordinary. The leader of the hunters barked an order. "Stop him. Take the device." Two men rushed back inside the shed, weapons raised. But when they stepped close, the alien's weak body shone brighter. A strange energy pushed against them, invisible but heavy, like the air itself had turned to stone. The hunters staggered backward, growling in frustration. The orphan cried out, "Don't hurt him!" His voice broke the silence for a moment. The leader turned and raised a hand, and instantly the boy was thrown onto the dirt ground. His small body hit hard, the breath knocked from his chest. He coughed, clutching his ribs, but still tried to crawl back toward the alien. The alien looked at the boy, his glowing eyes filled with something the child could not understand. Pain, anger, but also pride. He pressed the device to his chest and it flickered, projecting an image into the air. A voice smooth and powerful, spoke in another language. Then, as if recognizing the boy's presence, it shifted into broken human words. "My lord, we are searching. Survive. Your fleet is coming." The hunters cursed and tried to shut down the projection, but the message had already been heard. The orphan froze in shock. Lord? Fleet? His mind struggled to understand. The alien he had thought was just a wounded traveler was far more important. The hunters now moved with new urgency. "He must not live long enough for them to find him," the leader said coldly. He raised his weapon, pointing it straight at the alien's chest. The orphan's heart stopped. Without thinking, he threw himself in front of the alien again. His thin arms spread wide, his body trembling but unyielding. "No," he shouted, his voice cracking. "You'll have to kill me first." For a brief moment, silence fell. The hunters stood there, weapons glowing, staring at this weak human child who dared to defy them. The leader's voice was filled with disgust. Why would a poor boy throw away his life for a stranger? The orphan's voice shook, but his eyes were steady. "Because he needs me. No one ever needed me before." The alien's glowing eyes softened. In his long life, he had met warriors, rulers, and traitors, but never had he seen courage like this from someone with nothing. He whispered, his voice like a dying flame, "Child, you are more than you believe." But the hunters did not care about words. Two of them seized the boy again, dragging him back. He kicked and screamed, his voice echoing through the ruins. "Run! Hide! Don't let them take you!" The alien could not run. His body was too weak. But he could act. His trembling hand gripped the device again. He whispered something in his own language, and the light grew brighter, wrapping around him and the boy. The hunters shouted, raising their weapons, but the light pushed them back with a force like a storm wind. The orphan blinked, shielding his eyes. The shed shook, dust falling from the broken roof. Then the light dimmed, leaving only silence. The hunters cursed, regrouping quickly. "He used a beacon. Others will come. We must finish this before they arrive." But the boy and the alien were no longer inside the shed. Somehow, in that flash of light, they had vanished. Far away, in the ruins beneath the city, the boy opened his eyes. His chest rose and fell quickly, his body aching from the pull of the strange energy. Beside him, the alien lay weak but alive. The device glowed faintly on the ground. The orphan looked around in confusion. They were in an old tunnel, forgotten by the city, hidden beneath stone and dirt. Rats scurried in the shadows, and the air was damp and cold. How did we get here?" the boy whispered. The alien's voice was faint but steady. "The device moves us, but only once now. We are hunted still." The boy's hands curled into fists. He wanted to cry, but he forced himself not to. He had chosen this path. He could not be weak now. The alien studied him, then spoke words that chilled the boy's blood. "You must know. I was not just a traveler. I was betrayed. Once I had power, wealth, everything. Now I have only you." The boy's breath caught. His eyes widened. A poor orphan from the streets protecting a man who once owned riches beyond imagining. His mind spun with questions. Who had betrayed him? Why were these hunters so desperate to end his life? Before he could ask, the alien gripped his wrist with surprising strength. His glowing eyes locked onto the boy's. "Listen, you must stay alive, no matter what. If they take me, do not let them take you." The boy shook his head fiercely. "No, if you go, I go. I'm not leaving you." The alien's lips trembled as if he wanted to argue, but then he closed his eyes, exhausted. The device flickered softly, casting strange shadows on the tunnel walls. The boy sat beside him, his small frame pressed against the cold stone. Above them, the hunters searched the city, their voices like thunder in the night. They would not stop until they found them. The orphan stared into the darkness, his fear fighting against his courage. He whispered to himself, "I'll protect him, even if it costs me everything." And somewhere deep inside the alien's device, the faint glow pulsed like a heartbeat, carrying secrets, carrying hope, carrying shadows of a truth the boy had not yet discovered. The tunnel was silent except for the sound of dripping water. The orphan sat with his knees pulled up, shivering in the cold. Beside him, the alien lay weak, his chest rising and falling slowly, each breath sounding like it might be his last. The boy's thin hand stayed close to the stranger's arm, as if his small touch could keep him alive. Above them, the hunters' voices echoed faintly. They were still searching. Their boots struck the ground like hammers, growing louder and softer as they moved from one street to another. The orphan knew it was only a matter of time before they searched the tunnels. He turned to the alien, whispering urgently, "You have to tell me the truth. Why are they after you? Why would men in armor hunt you across the stars?" The alien's glowing eyes opened slowly. His gaze was heavy as if weighed down by years of secrets. For a long moment he said nothing, only studying the boy's thin, dirt-streaked face. Finally his voice came, broken but steady. "Because I was not just anyone. Once I had everything, worlds, ships, wealth that could buy empires. But power brings enemies, and enemies bring betrayal." The boy froze, his breath caught in his throat. "Wealth, you mean you were rich?" The alien's lips curled into a faint, bitter smile. "Rich is too small a word. I was a billionaire among the stars. I built cities that floated in the sky. I gave gifts that could power planets. But those who stood beside me grew jealous. They wanted what I had. They plotted in shadows, struck in silence. My ship was destroyed, my guards scattered, and now I lie here hunted, a lord reduced to nothing." The boy's mouth hung open. A billionaire. A man who once commanded fleets and owned entire worlds was lying broken in a dirty tunnel, depending on a poor orphan with nothing. It was so impossible that it almost felt like a story from an old dream. "But," the boy whispered, confused, "if you had so much, why help me? Why even look at me? I'm nobody. Just a beggar child. The alien's eyes softened. Nobody? No, you gave me water when I was dying. You hid me when hunters closed in. You risked your life when you could have run. That is something no empire could ever buy. You have what they never had. The orphan's chest tightened. No one had ever spoken to him like this. No one had ever seen worth in him before. He felt his eyes sting, but he forced back the tears. I only did what was right, he said quietly. The alien nodded slowly, as if the boy had spoken a truth greater than gold. But their fragile moment was broken by the sharp echo of boots. The hunters were coming closer. The boy pressed himself against the wall, fear flooding his chest. The alien's hand reached for the device, but the boy grabbed it quickly. Not yet. If you use it, they'll find us faster. The alien looked at him with surprise. A child was advising him, a man who had once ruled industries across galaxies, and yet the boy was right. They stayed in silence as shadows passed the tunnel's entrance. The hunters' voices rang out. He cannot be far. Spread out. Find them before the beacon calls his fleet. The word echoed in the boy's mind. The message had said it too. If this alien truly had a fleet, then he was not only rich, he was powerful. His enemies feared his return. That was why they hunted him like an animal. When the hunter's footsteps faded for a moment, the boy leaned close again. If you're so rich, if you're so powerful, then why save me? Why not wait for your fleet? You don't need me. The alien's glowing eyes held his. I had everything, yet I was alone, surrounded by men who smiled to my face and stabbed me in the back. But you, poor, hungry, forgotten, you chose to stand by me without asking for anything. Do you not see, child? That makes you greater than them all. The boy swallowed hard, his heart trembling with something he had never felt before. Hope. But the sound of weapons charging ripped through the air. The hunters had found another way into the tunnels. Their shadows stretched across the walls, long and sharp. The orphan grabbed the alien's hand. We have to move. The alien tried to rise but stumbled, too weak. The boy threw the alien's arm over his shoulders, dragging him forward once more, step by step through the dark. The hunters' voices grew louder. They are here. Do not let them escape. The boy's heart pounded, his legs burning, but he refused to stop. Every turn in the tunnel was a gamble. One wrong step could trap them. Yet he pressed forward, whispering under his breath, I won't let them take you. I won't. Behind them, the hunter's footsteps thundered closer. One voice shouted, The boy cannot run forever. Take him alive. He will lead us to the Lord. The boy's eyes burned with tears he would not shed. He pulled harder, his small frame shaking under the alien's weight. He had nothing in the world, no food, no family, no home. But he had made a choice. He would protect this stranger who once owned the stars. And as the tunnel shook with the sound of the hunters closing in, the alien whispered, voice trembling with both weakness and awe, You, a poor orphan, may yet decide the fate of galaxies. The tunnels shook with every step of the hunters. Their armored boots pounded like drums of war, their glowing visors cutting through the dark. The orphan dragged the alien forward, his thin body trembling from the effort. Sweat ran down his dirt-streaked face, his arms shaking under the weight. The alien was weak, his breaths heavy, but he leaned on the boy, trusting him completely. The tunnel was endless, twisting like the ribs of some great beast buried under the city. Rats fled into holes as the boy stumbled forward. He whispered through clenched teeth, Just a little more. We can do this. But the hunters were faster. Their voices grew closer, echoing through the stone. They are here. Don't let them escape. The boy's chest burned, his lungs crying for air, but he pushed on. He knew if he stopped now, it would be over. Behind him, he heard the snap of weapons charging, the hum of energy building. Fear clawed at his heart, but courage pushed him forward. At last, he spotted a crack of pale light ahead, a broken grate leading out of the tunnels. Hope surged inside him. If he could just reach it, maybe they could slip into the alleys and vanish into the ruins again. Hold on, he whispered to the alien. We're almost there. But as he reached the opening, a shadow moved. From the side passage, another group of hunters appeared, blocking their path. Their weapons glowed, aimed straight at the boy and the alien. The orphan froze, his heart sinking into his stomach. They were trapped. The leader of the hunters stepped forward, his voice sharp and cruel. Enough running, boy. Hand him over, and you may yet live. The boy's fists clenched. He knew it was a lie. These men had no mercy. If he gave the alien up, they would kill them both anyway. He stood tall even as his knees shook. No, he said, his voice breaking but firm. I won't. The hunters laughed coldly. A child dares to defy us? Then you will watch him die. One of them raised his weapon. The alien stirred weakly, his glowing eyes flashing with anger. His voice came out rough but clear. You dare touch the child? For a moment his body seemed to shine brighter, but the strength quickly faded. He fell back against the boy's shoulder, coughing. The orphan's heart raced. He could not fight armored men with strange weapons. He had nothing but his courage, and courage alone was not enough. He looked around desperately, searching for anything, any way out. Then he saw it. A loose beam above the tunnel hanging by a thread. If it fell, it could block the path for a short time. Maybe it would be enough. The boy picked up a stone and hurled it with all his strength. The beam cracked and crashed down, dust and rubble filling the tunnel. The hunters cursed, stumbling back as rocks rained down. Now! The boy shouted, dragging the alien toward the grate. He pushed with all his might, forcing it open, scraping his hands until they bled. Light spilled into the tunnel. He shoved the alien through, then pulled himself out just as the hunters began tearing at the rubble. They stumbled into the ruined street, gasping for air. The city lay silent, the moonlight cold on broken stone. For a moment the boy thought they had escaped. But then from the shadows another figure stepped out. Not a hunter. Not a guard. A man the boy had seen before. A trader who sometimes gave him scraps of food in exchange for carrying heavy loads. His face looked kind once, but now his eyes were hard, greedy. There you are, the man said softly. I saw the crash. I saw you dragging him. I knew there was something valuable. The boy's heart sank. Please, he begged. They'll kill us both if you call them. The man smiled coldly. Kill you? No, they pay for information, and if this alien is worth so much, perhaps I will sell him myself. The boy's stomach twisted. Betrayal cut deeper than the hunter's weapons. Someone he once trusted, someone who had shown him small kindness, was ready to trade his life for gold. The alien looked at the man, his glowing eyes filled with bitter recognition. And so again. Greed. The boy stepped in front of the alien, his small frame trembling but defiant. You can't have him. The man's smile grew wider. You're only a poor orphan. What can you do to stop me? Before the boy could answer, a shout rang out behind them. The hunters had broken through the rubble. Their glowing eyes blazed as they rushed into the street. The man lifted his hands quickly. Here, over here! I found them. The boy's chest tightened with fury and despair. The man had betrayed them, and now the hunters were closing in. The alien's hand trembled as he gripped the boy's wrist. His voice was weak but fierce. Listen, do not give up. Even in betrayal, there is still a path. The boy looked at him, eyes wide. What path? The alien's lips curved into a faint smile. You. Before the boy could answer, the hunters raised their weapons, light spilling across the ruins. The orphan stood tall, his heart pounding, ready to fight with nothing but his will. And as the night filled with danger, the truth of loyalty, betrayal, and courage clashed in the shadows, drawing them all closer to the moment that would decide their fate. The ruined street trembled under the weight of armored boots. The hunters poured out of the tunnel, weapons glowing like fire in the night. The orphan stood in front of the alien, his small body trembling but unyielding. Behind them, the greedy trader raised his hands, shouting, Here! I found them! The alien is mine to sell! The hunters ignored him. Their eyes were locked on the alien, their voices sharp with triumph. The Lord is weakened. End this now. The boy's heart pounded so loud he could barely hear. He was only a poor orphan with nothing. No weapons, no allies, no power. And yet at this moment he was the only wall between the alien and death. He spread his arms wide, shouting with a voice that shook the night. You'll have to go through me first. The hunters laughed, cold and cruel. Their leader stepped forward. A child thinks he can stand against us, very well. Let him die first. The alien stirred, his glowing eyes weak but burning with fire. He gripped the device at his chest, his hand trembling. He whispered, Child, hold on. Just a little longer. A bright pulse rippled through the night. The device glowed stronger, brighter than before. The hunters raised their weapons, firing bolts of energy. The boy shut his eyes, bracing for the pain. But the blasts never reached him. A shimmering wall of light spread around them, deflecting the shots. The hunters staggered back, cursing. The trader's smile faded into fear. What is this? The alien rose slowly, his body shaking, but now his voice carried a strange strength. It is the call of loyalty. The call of a fleet that has not forgotten me. Far above the ruined city, the sky split open. Stars shifted as shapes emerged. Vast ships dark against the moonlight, their lights glowing like suns. A fleet, massive and unstoppable, descended from the heavens. The hunters froze, their arrogance shattering. Impossible, one whispered. The fleet was destroyed. The alien's lips curved into a faint smile. You thought betrayal could erase me? You were wrong. The orphan's eyes widened, his mouth hanging open. He had never seen ships so huge, so powerful. They filled the sky like mountains of steel, and all of them were answering the alien's call. The fleet unleashed beams of light, striking the ground near the hunters. Explosions shook the street, forcing them back. Soldiers in shining armor descended, surrounding the hunters with weapons drawn. The balance of power had shifted in a single heartbeat. The traitor dropped to his knees, begging. I didn't mean it. I only wanted gold. Forgive me. But no one listened. The soldiers dragged him away, his cries fading into the night. The hunters tried to resist, but they were outnumbered. One by one they were captured, their weapons ripped away, their visors shattered. The leader fought hardest, but even he fell, forced down on his knees. The boy watched, his heart racing. For the first time he realized just how much power this stranger carried. A man hunted and broken one night could summon an empire the next. The alien's guards rushed to his side, bowing deeply. My lord, you live. We searched every star, and now we have found you. The alien's voice was weak but filled with authority. I live because of him. He turned, his glowing eyes resting on the orphan. A boy with nothing risked everything to save me. The guards stared in disbelief at the child. Some whispered, others frowned. But the alien lifted a trembling hand, pointing at the boy. He is no longer a nameless orphan. From this night, he is my family. Treat him as you would treat me. The boy's eyes filled with tears. He could barely speak. But I'm just nobody. I don't belong with you. The alien leaned closer, his voice gentle but firm. You gave me what no riches ever could. Loyalty without greed, courage without reward. That makes you greater than any lord I have ever known. The boy shook his head, overwhelmed. I only wanted to help. The alien smiled faintly. And in helping, you saved not just me, but the future of worlds. The guards lifted the alien carefully, guiding him toward a waiting ship. He paused, reaching out his hand to the boy. For a moment, the orphan hesitated. All his life, he had been forgotten, unwanted, treated as dirt. But now someone who once owned the stars, was offering him a place beside him. The boy took his hand. His small fingers gripped the alien's firmly. Together, they stepped toward the ship. The crowd of soldiers bowed as they passed, their voices rising as one. For the Lord. For his heir. The orphan's breath caught. Heir? His heart raced with shock, but the alien leaned down, whispering softly. From this night, you are no longer alone. You are my son. The boy's tears finally fell. For the first time in his life, he was not hungry for food but for love, and now he had it. As the ship rose into the sky, carrying them away, the orphan looked out the window. The ruined city grew smaller beneath him, fading into the shadows. Ahead lay stars brighter than he had ever imagined, and a future he never dreamed possible. The poor boy who once begged in the streets was gone. In his place stood the chosen family of a galactic billionaire, and the universe itself would never forget the night when a lonely orphan's courage changed the fate of worlds.